Well, I just wanted to apologize for every single fucking version of Windows that sucked, which is basically all of them. Also, sorry for creating viruses just so I could profit from selling you the antivirus software. And on that note, sorry for spreading real viruses by profiting from vaccines and shit. Also, sorry for sterilizing so many of you. There's just too many of us, and some of you are not nice. That's why I'm trying to block out the sun. Anyway, I just came here to ask for a pardon from all the Epstein shit. Thank you.
Hi, perhaps you recognize me. It's your favorite president.
We will decide who comes to this country and the circumstances in which they come.
Anybody in this country doesn't minimize their tax. They want their headroom.
Socialists don't like ordinary people choosing, or they might not choose socialism.
The answer is might, because I want to do you slowly. I want to do you slowly. I was saved by God to make America great again.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Stephen Tripp. Thank you to everyone who is watching this. We are also streaming to some other platforms tonight, which is very exciting. So thank you to all the new audience out there. If you are watching this live, you can contribute on the chats. We want to hear from you. The best episodes are the ones that are more interactive with our audience, so we definitely want to hear from you. And if you are really game tonight and not shy, you can hit that link to StreamYard and call in, ask a question or make a statement and have you say whatever you choose. Don't be shy. It's like talkback radio instead of a bit like talkback streaming. So don't be shy. We want to hear from you. So we've got a great episode tonight. We've got a big panel on. I thought we'd just mix it up and do something different. So it's going to be very interesting and exciting for me at least. So let's kick things off, and it's by letting you know how you can support us. It's by heading to Buy Me a Coffee. Now, if you want to throw us a few dollars and show your support, you can head straight to Buy Me a Coffee. It helps to pay for the stream, helps to pay for the website, and most importantly, gives me a very warm and fuzzy feeling inside, which is very, very important. So please head to Buy Me a Coffee and throw us a few dollars there. Also, if you really want to get behind us, you can head to commandingthenarrative.com. Now, if you head to commandingthenarrative.com, it is the central hub for everything, all our previous podcasts, any articles that might have been written. Also, these surveys here, if you want to fill out some surveys and have some fun with some surveys, they are right there. We've got some great responses back from those. And also, if you want to know who's coming up on the podcast this week, head to commandingthenarrative.com and all that information is there. If you want to sign up to the newsletter, head back to the top of the page and hit the sign up button in the top right hand corner, and you'll get the newsletter with all the podcasts and all that information as well. And it is really the best place to go. Don't rely on social media. Even though we are doing pretty well on social media of late, we don't seem to be getting shadow banned like we normally do, but the website's really the place to go. And while you're there this week, check out the footage from Revival. We were down in Adelaide last Sunday for the ABG event, Australians for Better Government. It was a great day. We met some really great people down there, and there were some really great speakers from that event. So check that footage out. A lot of people have already, and we're already getting some really great feedback. So that's it for me. Let's start introducing some of our guests. The first one I've had on the show before. You should know her very well, Katy McCallum. She's a real warrior. She's the type of person I think this country needs more people like Katy, real leaders that are reluctant to do it. They don't really want to do it, but they're doing it because they feel this country's on the wrong trajectory, and they're doing it for their kids and they're doing it for their country. And that's exactly the type of person that Katy is. She's very dynamic. She's the president of Let's Rethink Renewables. She's leading that organization very, very well, better than I could. So let's bring her on. Ms. Katy McCallum, welcome back to Commanding the Narrative.
G'day, Stephen. How you going?
Very well, thank you. Now, you're up in Queensland. You're about to get smashed by a hailstorm.
Yes.
Climate change is really coming for you, isn't it?
It's climate change, yeah. The climate change is coming to get us.
Yeah, very
I'm
good.
just hoping that the hail is really big tonight and it wipes out the big solar farm nearby here so that it shows people how ridiculous renewable energy projects are.
How close are we to that happening?
It's about 3 kilometres away at the moment. So everybody pray, please.
Is it wrong for us to wish for a solar panel project to be wiped
It
out?
sort of is, but at the same time, I mean, this is Mother Nature, and they have stuck our energy security into the hands of Mother Nature, and this is what happens. So if you want the lights on, you can't rely on the weather to do that.
Well, unfortunately, the climate narrative is falling apart, and that's what we're going to be talking about a lot tonight. So I think you're a valuable guest to get on, but also joining us for the first time, making his first appearance on Commanding the Narrative. We're taking his Commanding the Narrative virginity, which is going to be interesting. A guy that I've known since I've been on his podcast. He had a podcast called South Australia in Focus, and he's just done a rebranding. It's now called Faith, Culture, Politics in Australia with Mark. It's a great podcast. I encourage you all to watch it. I was on there a few weeks ago if you want to check that one out. But he's also had some great guests on as well. I encourage you to all support his podcast and all the work that he's doing on his Substack, which we'll discuss a little bit tonight. But I met him for the first time in the flesh last Sunday in Adelaide, and it was probably the highlight of heading down to Adelaide for me to get to know Mark a little bit more. So let's bring him on. Mark Neugebauer, welcome to Commanding the Narrative.
Legends, how are you? Thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, as you so aptly put, losing my virginity on Commanding the Narrative.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
How are you guys?
Your innocence is over now.
That's it, mate. That's done, man. 54 years, and there it goes. How about that?
That's right. That's right. Now, mate, we know you as a committee member of Australians for Better Government. You do have a history from COVID, but what we might do is closer to the South Australian election, which is coming up in March, maybe in February, we'll have you back on and we'll do a one-on-one with you and a deep dive into your history. But just now, so the audience can get a little bit of an idea about you, you're going to be running in the upper house for the South Australian election. Why did you decide to run, and why did you decide to run as an independent?
Yeah, good question. Look, I ran, as you know, I ran in the federal in 2022 because I'd lost my job. I'd been terminated through mandates. And look, I was massively undercooked then. I joined in with the Australian Federation Party, and it was very all over the place, to be honest. And so was I. Very green, never wanted to go into politics. But look, obviously that didn't work out. Got, 1% of the vote. It was very, very low. But then I've been ticking along since, and just seeing that a lot of things aren't changing, and there's a lot of lack of transparency and accountability in government still, and just seeing what the state government here in South Australia is doing. The Labor government's charging ahead with their net zero 2027, and Katy's obviously going to have a bit to say into that in regards to renewables and so forth. But just in regards to other things, one of the major concerns for me was the emergency management legislation that was updated just recently, which kind of flows into the World Health Organization's treaty in that. So they're like really looking at that. So I, much to I guess the concern of friends and family, I went, you know what, no, what else am I going to do? I don't want to be sitting there when I'm on my deathbed and my kids or grandkids going, where were you, Poppy? What were you doing, right? So I decided I'm going to run as an independent for the Legislative Council. And the reason I want to run as an independent is because I don't want to be bogged down with party affiliation and all that sort of, the background stuff and all that. And even though it does put me on a bit of a long shot, the other reason is obviously because I joined Australians for Better Government and am a committee member. We're obviously advocating strongly for a independent Senate and a non-party affiliated Senate, and that's the same. We see the same as the Legislative Council. We believe it should be non-party affiliated and it should be full of independents. And a nice start to have it full of, for now, have it full of minor parties and independents if possible. So, but eventually it'd be good to see the Legislative Council, the House of Review, as an full of independents, and that's one of the reasons I put my hand up to go in there. So long road ahead. I know I'm up against it. They've got lots of money, and I don't, and they've got lots of media behind them, and I don't. So I don't underestimate what I'm up against. So I'm not naive, but I've got to give it a good crack.
Well, you got Commanding the Narrative behind you, mate, and Australians for Better Government. So that's a start. But good luck, mate. We'll have you back on to discuss that in depth. But thank you for joining us tonight. We do have one more guest on tonight. Now, unfortunately, I can't say anything nice about our next guest, but that's why I love him. Now, we've got two positive people here to start things off. But this next person, I've had to reach in to the depths of hell to bring him on. Mr. Richard Storch. Welcome back, mate.
Thank you, Stephen.
How are you going, mate?
I'm good. I'm a little hot under the collar after the last week, but I didn't appreciate the Prime Minister's T-shirt, as you know.
Yes, we will be talking about that tonight.
I was very disappointed at the opposition leader's performance and the media's performance in holding him to account.
Okay, well, let's get into all of that, but I suppose we should start with the title of this podcast tonight, and that is Climate Scam. Is AI undermining the climate alarmism that's taking place? And this all revolves around a blog that Bill Gates put out on, I don't know what platform he's got. He's got some blog platform that he's putting this stuff out there. And he's basically backpedaling now on the whole climate narrative and the climate scare campaign that is all saying that the world is going to end. Well, he's saying, no, the world's not going to end, and it's all going to be okay. He says in this blog, there's a doomsday view of climate change that goes like this. In a few decades, cataclysmic climate change will decimate civilization. The evidence is all around us. Just look at the heat waves and storms caused by rising global temperatures. Nothing matters more than limiting the rise in temperature. And then he goes on to say, fortunately for all of us, this view is wrong. Although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise. Now, when he put that out, and it is a very lengthy article, I mean, we can't go into all of it. As always, President Donald Trump was there to react to it, and he put this out on Truth Social. He said, we just won the war on the climate change hoax. Bill Gates has finally admitted that he was completely wrong on the issue. It took courage to do so, and for that, we are all grateful. MAGA. So it looks like the climate change narrative is falling apart, just like COVID. No one's banging on our door going, hey, how come you guys were right all along? Again, the left or the lefties are changing their narrative as these things progress, whereas I suppose the climate realists, you might call them, have kept stuck to the same message all the way along and had no credit for it. But Katy, I mean, what do you think about this? You're the president of Let's Rethink Renewables. What was your reaction when you saw that Bill Gates was backpedaling?
Well, I took my tinfoil hat off a little while ago because it was attracting so much attention, but I probably should stick it back on now just to rub into everybody the fact that we were all right, all of us tinfoil hat wearers. It makes me really angry, Stephen. Like, I'd like to be able to make a joke about it, but this is a bloke who has huge influence around the world, huge influence. My first question of that is, why does he have such huge influence? And this whole climate con has destroyed people's lives, just destroyed them. And for me here in my local area, I've seen it happen. That's how I got onto this whole reckless renewable journey. But he has no idea about the damage that he has done to communities around the world with this alarmism. And he doesn't care. He's a psychopath. All he cares about is his bank balance and his own ego. What he needs to do is get on the plane, the one that he flies around the world in, and he needs to come to places like Australia and visit all the communities that have been completely torn up and decimated. You know, there's families, generational families in these towns who will never speak to each other again, all because of Bill Gates and the ridiculous climate narrative that he pushed, he and a whole heap of other horrible, nasty, greedy, evil people in this world. So it makes me angry. I'm just really angry because the rest of us are out here just trying to live our lives, and it's costing us all a fortune emotionally, physically, financially to fight this, to save our towns, all because of people like Bill Gates who can just turn around now after he realizes that he's losing his battle and he thinks, well, I better jump on the ship that's not sinking. Well, guess what, Bill? You're not getting on our ship, and you won't be getting a life vest thrown to you. You can sink, as far as I'm concerned, and drown.
Look, Katy's up in Queensland. Richard and I are in New South Wales. Mark, you're in South Australia, so we're really covering the true breadth of Australia, or at least I suppose from the central to the east of Australia. This is an issue that's. What was that?
We're ignoring Victoria.
Yeah. Okay.
Who? What was that?
We're ignoring Victoria.
West
Still
Victoria.
part of Australia.
But Mark, we here in Sydney, we don't hear too much about South Australia. It's kind of just down there in South Australia on its own. I mean, I hear stories about how when they kick off projects like if Telstra wants to roll something out, they'll roll it out in Adelaide, because if it all goes pear-shaped, no one will hear about it and they can rectify it. Now, but we do hear stories about you guys having blackouts down there because you've really embraced renewables. Is that the case?
Well, I think it's not so much the blackouts. I mean, that'll come obviously with massive concerns about this, about being so reliant on renewables at the end of the day. But one of the big things in South Australia that might be in the news a lot is that we've got the highest electricity prices in the country, and this is because we've got this transition, and people can search it up. It is linked to our transition into renewables. So, and obviously, when it's a really windy day, the wind farms aren't spinning because they've got to turn them off, and they're talking about massively expensive batteries that only last so long. And as we've spoken about before, I spoke about at the event, our manufacturing sector has been massively decimated. And so we can't have proper manufacturing fully reliant on renewables. And what the state government did here is they actually blew up our baseload power stations. So they blew up the coal-fired power station, and they thought, well, no, this is just the way we go. We're not going to give you any options. And because we're charging full steam ahead into this net zero 2027. So, I think with cost of living and the highest power prices in the state and the decimation of our manufacturing, I think there's massive things wrong, not just in South Australia, but all around the country. So look, there's massive concerns. But if we're getting back to Bill Gates, guys, and those comments from Katy, I definitely resonate with that, because Bill Gates is the biggest charlatan around, and I don't have any problems saying that at all. Now, here's a guy that was taken to court in the early days through his Microsoft venture and had lots of collusion going on there, and he paid for that. Now, but just think about this for a second. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded Event 201 in 2019 before COVID, and people can search this up themselves. He heavily invested in bio and tech in 2019 before the pandemic, and lo and behold, in the fourth quarter of 2021, he sold the majority of shares in that while they were on the high. Now, I'm not throwing any accusations out there, but it's what we say here in Australia, it doesn't pass the pub test. So if you've got a guy that's put on Event 201, that's put in place all the infrastructure that led into COVID, and then he also heavily invests in bio and tech and another pharma company before COVID hits, and then decides to be in a really good position in the fourth quarter of 21 when the stock was at its highest, because every government was pumping that vaccine into the population. And while it's sitting on a high, he sells the majority of it. Now that doesn't pass a pub test. If it doesn't pass it to me, what do you think?
No, mate, it doesn't. And yeah, I think you made some very, very good points there. Look, I was on the Mike Ryan show through the week, and I'm going to be on again Monday. So please check out everything that Mike Ryan's doing up there on the Gold Coast. I mean, that's really, really good stuff. But we're focusing on the desalination plant that was built up there in the early 2007 to 2009. Now, I actually worked on that job. I started my surveying career on the desalination plant, and when I did my first induction, we were getting told we need to finish this project as soon as we, right on time, because Southeast Queensland is going to run out of water, because Tim Flannery had been going around telling everyone that it wasn't going to rain again, or if it did rain, the dams weren't going to fall, and blah, blah, blah. So there was this mad panic to get this project completed. But what ended up happening about 4 months after I started there It rained for about 2 weeks straight and completely flooded the whole job and filled up all the dams. There's no need for the desalination plant anymore. And it was a cruisy job after that. It was actually a really good job to start my career. And I'm thankful to be able to have done that. But since the start of the construction up until the current day, with the construction and the maintenance of it, it's cost $1.7 billion. And that's just a Gold Coast plant. And this is all based on the lies that they were spreading about it never raining again. But now the government in Queensland is talking about building a new desalination plant. And this article here from ABC is talking about it. It's planned for 2035. Now, they haven't decided where they're going to build it yet, but the projections of how much it's going to cost, it's right here. Early modeling suggests it could cost between $4 to $8 billion. $4 to $8 billion that they're going to spend on a desalination plant, a second one up in Queensland. And it's all based on this climate narrative. Now, Richard, why don't the left ever learn from their mistakes and turn the tide around? I mean, we can see that this climate change...
They never take responsibility for their communication or their actions or the effects of them. And it's like the desal plant was our great warning. All the desal plants, there's 5 of them, but they were our great warning about wind and solar projects as well, because they were all unnecessary and they all ran over budget. I think the Victorian one was 26 billion. That turned into a union free for all, and we're still paying vast amounts of money for the Sydney desal plant, and it's just there all the time pumping water because it has to be kept going. And
well, it's crazy when you consider
the only one that's ever been used effectively is the Perth one, because they don't have the right topography for more dams. And there's just been an incredibly bad investment. And I remember having 2-figure water rate bills before the desal plant came in. I've never had one since. In fact, they're up to about $500 for my place every quarter. So there you go.
Yeah, look, mate. Yeah, go on, Mark. Yep.
I was just going to say, on top of that, like our state here, I mean, we just invested $500 million, and some people are saying higher. We've lost $500 million on this failed hydrogen project, all part of this whole push for renewables, when we've had all this effective and efficient baseload power options. And because of this whole climate thing that Bill Gates has pushed this whole time, and pushed fear into the population and everybody about having to adopt this stuff, our government's clamoring to look at all options to save the planet. So they've gone and cost the state government, or the taxpayers in this state and every other state in the nation, billions and billions of dollars since these rollouts. And if you have a look at the plant in the hydro in the Snowy hydro plant, that's blown out by about $10 billion or something like that, if not more, I believe. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And if you go back to the desal, if we're looking at desal here, this you've probably heard about the algae bloom here in South Australia, and they're trying to blame everything else, and they've got all these experts looking at stuff, and yet they're trying to whitewash this whole idea that it could be the desalination plant that's responsible. And there's actually evidence to say from a study back in 2010 before it was commissioned that it has the potential to cause algae blooms, and they're totally ignoring it. So all these factors that are contributing to this algae bloom is all could be environmentally responsible, from the desal, but they won't look at that. They're blaming everything else apart from that. But it's all that whitewashing and gaslighting that occurs all the time with government, right?
Yeah, but I had a teacher from Adelaide, and he was very proud of the fact that there are only 2 ports in the whole world, and this is the 1970s, where ships would refuse to take on water. One was Aden and the other was Adelaide, because the water came from the Torrens River.
Says a lot, doesn't it, other guys?
Now, Katy, we're talking a lot about the cost of this stuff. And we can see it being rolled out across the country, not just the wind projects and the solar projects, but also the transmission lines and the cost, the intergenerational theft that's taking place, all this money that's being wasted, and we're going to have nothing to show for it at the end. And it's going to be your kids and my kids and grandkids that are going to be paying for all this stuff going forward. And I don't know how they're ever going to pay it off. But it's not just the cost of it all. It's the intergenerational theft of all the farmlands that are being ruined, all the agricultural land that's being ruined. I mean, you're the president of Let's Rethink Renewables. Do you want to touch on that?
Oh, absolutely. You know that one of the pillars of Let's Rethink Renewables is that once we lose our rural landscapes and our productive farmlands, once they're gone for good. And we just really need to start to understand as Australians how important our rural landscapes and our productive farmlands and our wildlife habitats are. They're unique, they're precious. We've got a very limited amount of space in this country that contains those things. Once they're gone, once we destroy them, they are gone for good. In my grandkids' lifetime, we will not get back the tops of the Great Dividing Range that the government has allowed Squadron Energy and all these other companies to blow the tops off the Great Dividing Range to put those wind turbines up there. We're not going to get that back ever. For the rest of the history of this planet, you can't replace thousands of years of a rock that's been blown up by dynamite. And I just don't know that the rest of Australia understands that that's the damage that's being done. I mean, for us here in particular, they want to run these high voltage transmission lines across the southeast corner of Queensland in the sort of back area behind Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast. And pretty much it's going to make us like an industrial sized pin cushion. It's just to connect all these projects so that you can replace the coal-fired power stations once they shut them down and blow them up, because that's the intention of them, just to blow them up. You have to cover, there we go, that's exactly what I was talking about. Thank you for putting that up. You have to cover a vast amount of land with high voltage transmission lines. Otherwise, these projects are just sitting dead in the water out in the middle of nowhere. Now, those transmission lines, they had to be put on private properties. It's not government-owned land, and it destroys those people's properties. So we know that down in Victoria, all of those great farmlands where they want to put HV lines through, there's a exclusion zone outside those lines. So the farmers can't take their harvesters and their machinery within a certain distance against those lines. So I spoke to a spud farmer down there about 2 years ago, and he said, if it goes ahead what they have planned for my property, there'll just be a few thousand acres that used to have potatoes that I will not grow anymore, because he can't get the machinery into the paddock because it's going to be cut in half by a HV line. So I think it would be good if Australians understood that it's the HV lines that are probably going to destroy the rural landscapes more than anything else, because they are going to be everywhere, crisscrossing the whole entire eastern seaboard of Australia. And I'll tell you right now, as you know, I've got the little shop here in the local town. I talk to the tourists and they come out here and they see the Waluga solar farm. They say that if there's more of that, they won't come back. They don't want to drive past that. They don't want to see it. They don't come out here for a weekend away to drive past fields of black glass and giant buzzing HV lines.
Yeah. Look, while you're talking, I've got the map. This is from Rainforest Reserves, and they've done some great work. One of your friends, Stephen Nowakowski's put a lot of effort into this. Yeah, this is showing all the renewable projects that are either in place or planned. You can see the red lines there are the proposed transmission lines that Katy was talking about. The yellow dots are the proposed wind turbines. I mean, you can see how much land this is covering. Down in Wellington here, that's the solar project there. You can see how much land that's taking place. Now, when I'm on polling booths with teals, they tell me that they're building all this stuff in the desert. Well, as you can see there's a lot of green. That's not being built in desert. You can see how much land is being taken up across the country with all these projects. It's not going in the middle. It's not going in the desert. This stuff is happening on our agricultural land, isn't it, Katy?
Yeah, absolutely is. I mean, that the figure that came out of Victoria is that 70% of productive farmland will have to be covered with solar panels to replace the electricity they're going to take out of the grid when they shut the coal-fired power plants down. This is madness, absolute madness. And what angers me is that people in the city have not woken up to this yet, that out here in these rural areas where the food and the fibre and the minerals come from, that they are white-handing our towns, and they're making it so hard for us to continue to exist. We're the place where everything comes from so that everybody can survive. And they haven't had our back. People in the city have not had our back. And if we want to get into politics in particular, come on. I mean, the coalition, the LNP here in Queensland, the coalition in Australia, what have they been doing? They're so weak and flip-flopping around on this. I mean, the National Party finally decided that they're going to drop net zero at their own party room level. But what's Susan Ley saying about this? Does she actually give a shit about the people out here that produce the food that goes on her dinner table every night? I'll be very interested to see what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I reckon they're only dragged in, and I'll make no excuses. I lay the boot into Liberals every chance I can, because they let the country down significantly. And there's some good players still in there, some good people, but they're gone. They've got to go to the dustbin of history and start from the ground up, because the only reason that they're calling this out now is because they got dragged kicking and screaming into this, and they're bleeding members, and that's the reason why they flipped about. If it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be doing it, and I can guarantee you that. Because let me tell you, and I'll be frank with this, and I'm happy to say this, because the Liberal Party is beholden to the same globalist players as the Labor Party and the Greens, and I make no bones about that, because they're funded by heavy funders. You think they're just simple, Richard?
Never assume malice where stupidity is a more reasonable option.
I'd like to hope, and I really pray that that's the case there, Richard. I really hope it's just stupidity, but
I don't think that's a better option. I'd like to be intelligent enough to be corrupt and collude and do all that stuff. I don't think they are, though. I actually don't think the Liberal Party even knows who it is.
No, they don't. There's too much infighting. That's the problem. They've got too many issues dealing with their own factions, let alone focusing on policies. So that's the problem, isn't it?
Well, the real issue is that they think that their strategy should be like Labor's, where they ignore everything other than winning, and that's got a lot of traction.
Hey, Richard, I want to ask you this, because we're seeing some backpedaling from the Nationals and some of the, well, not really any of the Liberals, mainly the Nationals. We're also seeing some backpedaling of different places around the world, but especially here in this example with Bill Gates. But with Bill Gates specifically, and I know you've talked about this a lot on the show, actually, you talked about this a lot. You were one of the first people to talk about this. How much of this decision do you think is based on the emergence of AI? Now, we're seeing Google and Microsoft and a lot of these big companies in the United States having to build small modular nuclear reactors just to power the AI systems and the AI servers that they're going to have to be using going into the future.
Well, to keep it simple, all of it, because for the last, 2 years, you've seen where the money's been going into power generation. It's been going into nuclear and gas because of AI, and all the data storage and AI search installations are going into Texas, because that's where the gas is for cheap electricity. So the whole thing's been driven by AI, and the reality that we're going to, as you pointed out in the previous podcast, the needs of power generation are going to increase about tenfold in the next 10 years.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. You've been talking about this energy famine that's coming, and they're not going to be able to plug that with renewables. I mean, I was talking about the desal plant. They're talking about building this new one on the Gold Coast, and they're saying that it's going to be run through wind and solar. Well, how's that going to happen? You've got this plant that operates all the time. It consumes a tremendous amount of energy, but somehow it's going to only run when the wind's shining and the wind's blowing. The wind's blowing, the sun's shining. I mean, it's just laughable. All this stuff is going to start getting wound back, because our energy dependence is going to increase, as you said, probably tenfold and more. And the only way to address this is baseload power, and we are probably going to have to shift to nuclear. Is that fair?
We've missed the opportunity. We're going to be throwing up coal-fired power stations as fast as we can in 5 years' time, and everyone's everyone that's ever said anything stupid is going to have it hanging around their neck.
We'll probably have to start buying our coal back from China, Richard.
Well, they're definitely going to have to
after all the coal's gone.
We're definitely going to have to start opening new coal mines hand over fist, because most of the ones that we've got are just about spent, and we haven't been opening any new ones apart from Adani. But that's all pre-sold to India.
Mark, you're talking about in South Australia, they're blowing up coal plants down there. The election is coming up, and I guess it's an important election when you talk about energy security. Is there anyone or any party, any politician down there talking about the option of going nuclear?
Look, I think One Nation's open to it. We've got some pretty strong candidates running in the Legislative Council. Carlos Coimbra, I know him through One Nation. I know that Mark Aldridge from People First Party is open to that. I mean, he's really, it should be about focusing on what can give South Australians energy security at the best prices, right? So now that the Bill Gates has come and basically said what many people have been saying for 10 or 20 years, you're going to have to go back and find ways to bring cheap, reliable baseload power into the state. So all these things need to be on the table, and that's my position as well. Is that we need to be looking at any opportunity to bring reliable baseload power into the country that can power manufacturing as well. Because I'd love to see South Australia get rebuilt with manufacturing. As I said through my talk, and you're aware of this, we used to be a powerhouse of manufacturing here in this state, even with car manufacturing, right? So if we want any sort of that future going forward, but unfortunately this is the problem with Labor and Liberals have set this up in the past as well. They've sold everything to overs, like they've decimated, with the Lima agreements in the past and other things, decimated our industry and manufacturing. As I said, the majority of stuff that you get now in shops is all made overseas. We've hardly got anything here, and they're making us so reliant on this whole one world kind of narrative, where we all kind of, should be relying on each other as the world and forget about Australia's sovereignty and our nation building. It's really about this sort of global agenda. Everybody rubs each other's backs, but at the expense of Australians and Australian workers and Australian manufacturing is what I've seen. So it's a long way back, but it just needs people to get cranky enough. As Katy's sort of saying, Katy's got a lot of fire in her belly, and rightly so, and articulates it really, really well, but it needs everyday Australians to get that fire in their belly and really, really pissed off about what's happening here, right? And that's not going to happen, until people are hurting enough. And I'm not sure whether people are hurting enough yet, but I'm hoping more conversations like ours will help people hurt enough, right? So, but getting back to what Richard was saying, and Richard, you guys make a really good point, because I didn't listen to that kind of side of the story about this reliance on, data mining, and even talking about crypto is very reliant on that sort of stuff. If we're ever going to go that path, right? But in the Bill Gates scenario, look, I see him as nothing more than an opportunist looking to make billions of dollars, and I see him jumping on this climate change grift for the same reasons as he jumped on the vaccine grift. And he's now saying, "Oh, look, we need to look at other things now." Because I genuinely see there's a shift in the country by Australians saying, "Look, we can actually see this is all BS. We've seen this amazing stuff that the Rainforest Alliance, I forget the proper name there that Katy knows." Yeah, and they've done some amazing work. I shared that as soon as I saw that as well. And I actually believe that more and more Australians are waking up, or people around the world are waking up to the failures of renewables. And I just see Bill Gates' stance as a bit of a walk back from his little opportunistic thing that he was doing. And he's pocketed a ton of money along the way. So now he's going to be looking for another grift along the way. So, and that's how I see Bill Gates. But I kind of, I'm open to the concept of what you're talking about there in regards to we're needing more, strong baseload power for the types of things you're talking about in regards to AI, especially if we're going to be looking at that surveillance stuff and, digging further into that. That definitely has its eyes there. But I don't know, what's your thoughts in regards to Bill Gates just being a grifter and looking for the next thing and saying, "Oh, renewables has done its little thing," or climate scam's done its thing, I'm just going to move on to the next thing. I don't know where you at with that.
I actually think he's a much more dangerous type of person, because he's a reformer perfectionist in the Enneagram. So he's on a holy mission to save the world. And that may sound a bit incongruous to you, because his vision of saving the world might be horrifying to you, but he believes
his vision is getting rid of us, mate. Haven't you seen his presentation?
He's got eugenicist family members, hasn't he?
So I think that's the way of saving the world, is to get rid of a certain amount of the human population, and he'd do it because, people like Lenin and Robespierre and the Ayatollah Khomeini were very pure as well in their outlooks. So
I guess also to answer Mark's question, I mean, I was talking about this back in the 2022 election. Eventually, they're going to pivot to nuclear energy, and there's a reason for that. All this money has been invested in renewables, and a lot of it's government subsidies. These investors, renewables investors, have made a killing out of it, but eventually, at some point, it's going to start to fall over, and we're seeing that now. So what do smart investors do? They pivot. They go to the next thing, and they get the big government grants and subsidies from that, and that's going to be nuclear energy. They're not going to go back to coal. They may start building coal plants as a backup, but they're going to move to the next shiny new toy. So politicians will get up there having no idea about what they're talking about and say, hey, look at this new shiny toy that we need to move to, and they'll start pumping money into that. So I see this as a pivot from Gates to move into nuclear technology, because as we said, if he wants to power his AI data centers and everything, he's going to need this baseload power, which is probably going to be coming from the small modular reactors. But Katy, I want to ask you this: as president of Let's Rethink Renewables, I guess Bill Gates is more aligned to you guys now than he was. Are you going to be reaching out to him?
No. Remember, I said he's going to sink. He's not getting a life vest thrown to him. I'm so sorry, but the man is evil. And what did you call him, Richard? He's a perfectionist.
Perfectionist.
Okay. And what's the antidote for those types of people? How do we deal with them?
They're dangerous because they always believe that they're right, and they can never admit that they're wrong.
How can you ever trust somebody like that again? If they have said everything they've said for all these years, he's twisted the other way now because he's realised he's on the wrong ship and it's sinking.
No, there is a blindness about the damage that they cause all around them, because they're so absolutely sure that they're right about everything. But it's like, we're talking about an extreme example. I mean, they also have lots of wonderful qualities, and they're the people that actually make the world go around and make a difference, because they're always trying to be better and do more. So there's two sides of it.
I don't know about bloody killing people.
This is the part where
how hot his bum's going to be when it starts burning when he lands in hell one day.
Well, he thinks that he's making his place in heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. This is the Joan of Arc syndrome. This is what makes the Greens and the Teals so dangerous, because they're a monoculture of that personality type. So
this is the part where Richard's going to tell everyone that I'm the same as Bill Gates. And
no, I didn't. You didn't have to. You owned up to it.
Great, awesome.
Look, you're a very high functioning example, and I can tell that straight away by how much serenity you have. Chris Minns is too.
Great, another fine example. Look, I want to move on a little bit because we've got some other issues to talk about. I mean, we could talk all night about this Gates thing and renewables, because it is a massive issue, and we do have to push back against it. But I guess staying on the AI track.
I do want to make one point, and that is that the rest of the world, the rest of the world can go for nuclear.
I was trying to be on this podcast and shut up.
We still have a ban. It's like we're not going to have a nuclear option here. We're going to be building coal-fired power stations in 5 years' time.
All right. Well,
I'll bet anyone on it.
All right. Well, moving on to some new technology, not going back into the past, going into the future with AI. I did want to touch quickly on this clip. This is Elon Musk talking about the future of AI that a lot of us might not be considering. It's very interesting.
Well, I can tell you where I think things are going to go, which is that we're not going to have a phone, or in the traditional sense, what we call a phone will really be an an edge node for AI inference, for AI video inference, with some radios to obviously connect to. But essentially you'll have AI on the server side communicating to an AI on your device, formerly known as a phone, and generating real-time video of anything that you could possibly want. And I think that there won't be operating systems, there won't be apps in the future. There won't be operating systems or apps. It'll just be, you've got a device that is there for the screen and audio and for and to put as much AI on the device as possible, so as to minimize the amount of bandwidth that's needed between your edge node device, formerly known as a phone, and the servers.
Can anyone imagine? I mean, we've just. I mean, to think about it. I mean, we're so. Our phones are joined at the hip with a lot of us nowadays. I mean, that they're a relatively new invention, I suppose. I mean, I speak to my daughter about it. She's only 4 years old, and I try and explain to her. Back when I was growing up, you just turned the TV on and you had to watch the show that was on the TV, and you had to put up with the ads. There was no fast forwarding. There was no skipping to the next thing. She just wants Peppa Pig like over and over again, and she doesn't understand why there's ads and other shows coming on. So I have to try and explain to her, and I mean, it makes you realize that these technology, the technology that we have, YouTube, phones. I mean, it's relatively new, but it seems to be becoming obsolete already. If you listen to Elon Musk. And this AI thing is becoming more and more concerning to me, because I just go on social media. I don't spend a lot of time on there nowadays, but it seems like half the content now are AI videos. And how do you know what's real and what's not real anymore? I mean, Richard could be AI right now. How do we know that he's the real Richard? I mean, it could just be an AI.
No, we don't, do we? This is the thing though, like this, because they can do that now with AI. Is it just mimics what they see on the screen, and it just data in, data out, right, at the end of the day. And that's how powerful it's gotten, hasn't it? And I mean, if you look at even some of the videos, the 2 or 3 minute videos we put together to promote the sort of stuff that we're talking about with Australians for Better Government, I mean, a bit of that was AI, and that looked, fairly looked like it was, really professionally done, and a mate of mine, knocked that together. He done most of the work. But but that's only very basic compared to what people are, the power of it, what people are doing now. And if you're talking about having some sort of chip, I mean, we look at our phones now. We're walking around with fully capable personal computers, or we used to have these big desktops and all that. And our phones are essentially much more than that now. So what he's talking about is not really that much into the future. But if you listen to Yuval Noah Harari, who says that we're going to be connected to the cloud, he's talking about the God under the clouds, not the IBM cloud's going to be the God, and we're going to be connected through that. That's the future that we're hurtling towards. And look, to me, it deeply concerns me. I mean, it's a trajectory it's on, but it's a very anti-human kind of world that they're dragging us towards, because they're basically just saying it's almost, it's just an interaction. It's about how we feel, not about how we perceive stuff. And it doesn't matter whether you're human flesh or soul or mind or whatever. It's about, what you get out of it and what it is. So I mean, we had movies like that 20, 30, 40 years ago where they jumped into a pod and ended up living life outside of their actual body. And I can forget what movie it was, but it's quite an old movie now. And this is the sort of stuff that we're hurtling towards. And me personally, I think it's very scary for our kids and grandkids, to be honest.
Look, I just quickly want to get. Tony said we know Richard is real because he's still talking shit. So, but I do want to say this. I mean, one of the things he's talking about is that the AI being able to predict what you want in that moment and just feeding you this AI generated content. I mean, you see the kids these days. I mean, you've got a young, boy and girl, Katy. I'm sure, I don't know if they're on TikTok or not, but I'm sure their friends are, and they're just constantly bombarded with these short clips, and you kind of become entranced by it, and you get caught up in it. And the only way out of it is finally when, you know, the boring content starts coming in, you go, oh, you know, I'm sick of this now, and you turn it off. If AI is going to be driving this, and you're going to be getting this AI generated content the whole time that is tailored to exactly what you want, how are we ever going to stop just staring endlessly at our devices? I mean, I think this is a risk. I mean, it almost to the point where we need to get off social media completely and just say, let's just get away from it.
Oh, look, the under 16 social media ban, as much as I'm against it, at the same time, secretly in the back of my head, I'm like, is this going to help to get kids off all of this bad social media that they're following? But I really do think that what we're headed towards is a huge separation of the classes. And I think it's going to be some sort of a combination between Terminator and the Hunger Games. And you know, like, I have to turn Elon off when I listen to him because it scares the living bejesus out of me, because everything the man says seems to come true eventually. And that's the future that our kids have ahead of them. I mean, I think that what will end up happening is there'll be a lot of people who will just opt out of this crazy technological future that we're headed into. And that's where I think the separation of the classes will come. I think that you're going to end up finding a lot of village living. There's going to be communities pop up where they're on big properties like the one I live on, 900 acres up here on the Black Snake Range. There'll be 20 families here. We'll be self-sufficient. We won't need doctors. We won't need technology. I really do think that's what the future holds. And then there'll be these great big giant cities plugged in to a network just like the one that Elon explained then. And I mean, it is really just like a Hollywood movie. I think that our future is a Hollywood movie. It's quite scary.
Yeah, it is very scary. Look, something else that's very scary is Anthony Albanese. Now, Richard, you really want to talk about this one, Richard. He was walking off a plane. I'm guessing this is when he was coming back from America or something, and he's wearing this T-shirt that has caused a lot of controversy. The Joy Division T-shirt. Now, Richard had to explain to me what the Joy Division was. I guess it was before my time, but it was a band. I mean, do you want to talk about this a little bit, Richard? You were hot under the collar about this.
I am, for a number of different reasons, which I gave you. The Joy Division was the name of a band in the 70s, late 70s, and it got its name from the brothel of concentration camps. So Albanese, you know, they changed their name a little bit, I think, after that, but it's still, they still kept it. It was basically one of those sort of offensive things that a lot of people in the 70s thought was fun or funny. Anyway, Albo was told in an interview 3 years ago that that's what the reference is. And he was shocked and said, oh, that's terrible. And yet he kept the T-shirt and he wore it again. And I think that it shows a number of different things. First of all, it shows his massive conceit that he thinks that that's something that's appropriate for a prime minister to even consider wearing or having. The second is that he thought that his glib excuse that he didn't know he was going to be filmed would have some sort of traction. And the third thing is that he seems to think that he's invincible because he's got 94 seats. He keeps on saying it to people all the time whenever anyone questions him. He goes, 94 seats, as if it's some sort of bulletproof vest or some sort of political bulletproof vest. And then the media not pursuing him about it, and then Susan Lee making it an issue about, you know, women's rights or sexuality or something stupid, instead of actually honing in on the fact that it's yet another instance of him being divisive instead of unifying the country and considering how that would, what effect that would have on a very beleaguered and insecure Jewish minority that we've got in this country. So there's a whole lot of different things that are in play here, and none of it's good, and none of it reflects well on the media. and they're total in curiosity about it. So I think it's just been an appalling thing, and I think the response to it, or the lack of response to it, has been appalling as well.
What about you, Katy or Mark? I mean, do any of you feel as passionately about this as Richard does?
Yeah, I do. I actually think it's disgusting. I cannot believe that he's the leader of our country. I find it horrendous that he did that, especially knowing what it stood for. I mean, this is a man who has gone on about how there should be no division and we must bring people together and have unity. What did he think he was doing wearing that shirt? Did he think there was going to be no TV cameras? He's the leader of our nation. He's not my leader. I didn't vote for him. I didn't put him there. It's just disgusting. He should offer an apology immediately. He should be utterly ashamed of himself, and his party from within should be hounding him to fix this. That's how I feel about it. I think it's gross.
Yeah, I didn't know too much about it before, and I didn't follow that topic, that story too much. But I mean, clearly it's hit some nerves, and I mean, I think from what I looked it up, some of the news, like Sky News, and that pumped it a bit, but I don't think it got a lot of traction from that. It was a bit of outrage on Sky News or something, but not much out of it. But at the end of the day, look, and I wonder whether it's something like you said before, Richard, is that are we giving him too much credit for thinking about this? Is it just that he's so completely stupid? I think is it one of those scenarios where he's just utterly dumb and didn't even put anything thought into it. It wasn't purposely trying to be divisive. I think it's just a stupid thing to do. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, he actually did know what he was doing and did it anyway, which is even more reprehensible. But I mean, my problem's with the media for not basically hanging him, pinning him to the wall and hanging him out to dry. I mean, they should have murdered him for this.
It's interesting because there's so many things too, though, isn't it? Like, I mean, I noticed one of the comments that Stephen popped up. Is it just another thing that it's easy to get distracted about, where there's so many other major things going on? I don't know, and I mean, I'm not discounting the fact that you're obviously passionate about it, and it is an issue. But this is the sort of thing is that they want us on either side. They want us all to be getting outraged about lots of different things, which takes our eyes off the ball of other stuff that they're doing. Is a concern for me, and I try to hone in on that a bit more these days, is looking at that as there's so many things that we could be jumping up and down about, but is it just then distracting us? I don't know.
I've got a good response to that, and that's to remind everyone that Al Capone was put into jail not for all the murders and mayhem that he caused, but for tax fraud. So you use what you've got.
Look, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because I would be a little bit hypocritical for criticizing Albanese for wearing this shirt when I'm a huge fan of Motorhead, and Lemmy Kilmister used to dress up as a Nazi, or we used to dress up in German war memorabilia. And I'm also a huge fan of Ted Nugent, who I'm sure the left would crucify me for when he's done a lot of crazy stuff in his day and said a lot about Obama, and he's a member of the NRA and all that sort of thing. But on the flip side of that, if I was Prime Minister, I wouldn't be walking around with a Motorhead T-shirt, or I wouldn't be walking around with a Ted Nugent T-shirt. I mean, I do that at the gym, but I'm not going to do that walking off a plane, that where you're meant to be representing the office of Prime Minister. Now, I think that's the biggest problem of this. It's not so much the shirt that he wore, but the how he's actually treating the office of Prime Ministership. And I know we talk about the Prime Minister not being mentioned in the Constitution, and it's not it's not constitutionally valid, but it is an office that a lot of people respect, and we do view it as the leader of the country, and he should be dressing like that. I mean, this is a conversation that Adam Zara and I have all the time. We've been having it since we were candidates back in 2022. When we go out in public in that political persona, as a candidate or whatever it might be, as president of Australians for Better Government or whatever it is, you dress for the part. I'm not going to go to a meeting speaking about Australians for Better Government wearing a Motorhead T-shirt. Why would you do that? So I think in that respect, I find that offensive that he's taking the role of the Prime Ministership, and he could be wearing a Wiggles T-shirt. I would probably have the same view about it. So
you make a good point, though, right? Because everybody bags Donald Trump, and people have lots of different things. But whenever you see him on screen, wherever he goes, he's dressed sharply as a president, as a person that's representing his nation. And Anthony Albanese is meant to be the statesman of Australia. And so regardless of you getting off the plane at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, you kind of appear that way, don't you? Because you know that when you hold positions of the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Australia, the media is going to be wherever you are, unless you're behind your own closed doors at night time or whatever, right? So at the end of the day, you make a good point there. Yeah, absolutely, Steve.
Well, let's talk about
the way that David Pocock dresses in the halls of Parliament House.
Well, he got schooled. He got schooled for turning up to the Senate without a tie.
It's ridiculous. And just look in the House. I mean, I was told by one of the members from the coalition that the second the Labor government won power in Australia, they removed the code of dress for the House. And when we were down there for the Reckless Renewables rally in February 2024, and we all went into the public gallery as guests, you look down and there is a distinct difference between the coalition and the Labor Party. He was a bunch, it looked like, this is what we say in my family, they look like a bunch of brown cows.
Katy, no, I'm going to play devil's advocate again, and I'm going to disagree with you. If you had a body like David Pocock, I wouldn't be walking around with a t-shirt either. I don't agree with this bloke politically.
Him standing in the river gets me. That's just a recent one. Why would you put that on your own political page? He posted a picture of himself meditating in the river. Who does he think he is? You know what, Stephen? I'm completely galled by that photo of him. I'm galled.
Come on, Katy. Come on, you got to get
politicizing renewable energy. I'm galled by him going around shirtless.
You got to give it to him, mate. Like, you got to give it to him. Apparently, he was a very good rugby player. I don't follow rugby, but one of my work colleagues was telling me about how great of a player he was, and he might well have been. I mean, fair enough.
We should have stayed on the rugby field.
Yeah, possibly.
Shay reckons you've got a man crush, so about that.
Nah, I can't. You can come on. Like, I used to be in bodybuilding. You can admire the male figure, but it doesn't necessarily mean.
No, it means nothing. When what's going on in here is terrible, it doesn't matter how the person looks.
Well, look, we're speaking about
green on the inside. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I couldn't care less whether he was The Rock. He's not a nice man.
Going back to your point, Stephen, you are correct. The Prime Minister does not respect his own office, and that's why he treats it with contempt. I don't think he treats it as a 9-to-5 job, but I think he treats it like he's the company director and he can just come and go as he feels like and all that sort of stuff. And it shows with this incident with the T-shirt. He just doesn't take it seriously. He doesn't take our country or our people seriously. He just thinks he can do as he pleases because he's just so cool.
Well, let's talk about someone else who might think they're cool, but also wants to be Prime Minister, Susan Lee. This is her response to the T-shirt.
Your colleague supporting your call for an apology from the Prime Minister over the T-shirt.
I don't take a backward step on my comments, and I don't know that people realise that the Prime Minister, in wearing the T-shirt, was well aware of the dark history behind the words on the T-shirt.
Why aren't they supporting your call? Was it a
Why go on with it? Why go on with it? Why take a step forward when you can take a step back?
Look, I don't understand why she's in such a rush. If she wants to be the leader, why can't she just stand there and argue the point? Like, why is she so afraid of running away from the media? Is this person serious? I mean, again, is she serious about the role that she wants to step into?
No, of course not.
If you want to be the leader of the country, you've got to stand there and defend your view, or in this case, make an attack on an opposing political opponent. And she's trying to run away. Oh, she gives a quick comment and I've got to scurry away. What votes is she winning by doing that? I mean, she seems to be completely oblivious to the task at hand. I mean, what do you think, Mark?
Yeah, again, it's like you either got to stick with it and run with it and just take it the whole yards. I think maybe she just didn't want to be distracted, like I mentioned earlier about that, and maybe wanted to just, she made the comment and moved on, rather than dragging people into it. I'm not sure. It's just it's strange to have a position and then not really come back and hammer it home on that. So yeah.
Richard, are you going to be voting for Susan Lee or her party at the next election?
I'm in a teal electorate. I hope I've got someone else to vote for. Last time I put Labor ahead of the Liberals.
Mate.
Wow. I know,
What
wow.
are you doing? You voted for Albanese. You're the problem. It's your fault.
No,
we have Albanese because of you.
That was in 2022. And I gave them a higher preference. I gave the Liberals a higher preference last time. But
you really are, Lucifer. Katy, I can't imagine you scurrying away from the media, Katy. You just stand there and give them.
I can't believe that she scurried like that. She looked like a bloody rat. The way she was running.
Yeah, well, that's what I've been called. I've been saying that
she's on a sinking ship as well. They're all on sinking ships.
She looks like a drowned sewer rat.
Yeah. She needs a new hairdresser. I just found that shocking. Like, if she wants people to follow her party and vote for them, and that's the leader, I mean, I'll tell you right now, like, you know, I was a police officer for many years, and we would get together in teams and we would go out and do raid days and kick in doors and do all sorts of stuff. And the person who was in charge, if it had been Susan Ley, who stood there in front of me and said, okay, get your guns blazing, we're going to go into this place, and it's one of Queensland's most violent men. If she was the leader, I would have gone, well, I'm going home sick, because there is no way I'm following you into battle. And that's the leader we have of the opposition party in Australia right now. What a joke. I wouldn't follow that woman into the local dog park to walk my dog. No, I mean that. It makes me so angry, because we are all out here trying to make Australia fantastic, how we thought it was when we were growing up in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and these people are just stuffing it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spot on.
Absolutely right. Nailed it.
It's just
and
so
I think
criminal what they're doing, and she's the leader. What a joke. She
not
should
for long.
She should
no,
they will get rid of her soon, surely. But the question is, Richard, who will be next? Like, who have they
Anyone
got?
would be better.
Well,
she's a nice lady, but she lacks thought. She'd make a great foreign minister.
She'd make a what, sorry?
Great foreign minister, because she's affable, easygoing, friendly. She looks good. She's charming. You know, she's everything that our current foreign minister is not.
I don't even think she'd be good at that, Richard.
Oh, she'd be wonderful. That's where you get someone who's shallow shallow and charming.
I think half the problem with all the major parties is they're led by the media. So whatever the latest outrage is with the media, because the media's got everybody, they've still got 80% of the population that switches into the mainstream, apart from those that are woken up. And so wherever the hot stories are, whatever the media is reporting on, Liberal and Labor and Greens will jump on that, and they'll jump onto those things. I think if you had a strong, courageous leader that just went, you know what, I'm bucking the trend, I'm just going to be, following stuff that isn't dictated to us by the media. I'm not going to be concerned about. I'm just going to stand true to my values and beliefs, which the Liberal Party obviously has lost their way on. Then I think you'll probably find a good leader, someone that can buck it. And this is the thing that I guess Donald Trump has done in America. He's set up yours to the media and just done what he's felt and what a lot of people have, what he believes a lot of people are needing, and that's what we need here in Australia.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works now, because we've got a comment here from 1984 punks. I have no idea why anyone is still voting for establishment parties. Now, this brings me to the next one, and I'm hoping actually, Mark sent this to me. So hopefully now we can get a little bit of a battle between Katy and Mark, because this relates to Malcolm Roberts, one of Katy's very good friends. Now, there was this vote that took place in the Senate this week, and this has been put out by Australians First to the Agenda. Now, it says that the Telecommunications and Other Legislation Amendment Bill of 2025 has passed the Senate, expanding government powers to intercept calls, access private messages, retrieve stored data, and compel tech companies including Meta, Apple, and Microsoft to assist in giving law enforcement broader surveillance access over Australians. Now, when you look at the people that voted for this to go through, it included Senator Malcolm Roberts, Senator Sean Bell, and also Tyron Whitten of One Nation. Now, Mark, you were the one that sent me this. What are your thoughts about this before we get Katy's view?
Well, this is the thing where we're at, because it's obviously very, very tricky, isn't it? When we've got, especially if we're talking about child protection, is one of the things I'm pretty hot on, and we're talking about more laws put in place, or more things put in place for law enforcement to do their job in regards to child sexual exploitation. And this is where some of this bill, and when I was reading it, what Malcolm Roberts was hinting at was trying to strengthen it. So the legislation, the bill didn't change, the wording didn't change a great deal, and the prospect of it didn't change a lot, but there was some things that was there were some concerns raised by that. So look, I have huge concerns about the way we're going in regards to media, social media bans, and lots of other restrictions over our liberties to be able to access stuff and do stuff. So it's a real fine line, between giving authorities the power to be able to reach into people's personal information, and they've posted to be able to see what they're doing. And it's the slippery slope aspect of what this is talking about. And so the main reason I picked up on that is because I obviously saw the post from People versus the Agenda, and then the interaction between Malcolm Roberts, and I kind of just following that a bit, and I can see both sides, and I can see the concerns raised by People versus the Agenda in regards to what I just said. It's a very slippery slope about how much these laws will allow people, to give them scope for into the future. And that was more my point to the whole thing.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity now to really stick the dagger into One Nation. No, I'm not. Actually, I'm just joking. Katy, you're a One Nation star up in Queensland. Do you want to, I guess, defend the party and their position in this one?
Oh, look, absolutely. I just think that, okay, so I read through it this afternoon. So the first thing that jumped out at me was the fact that he said in his post, Malcolm said in his post, that what he was doing was voting for the changes, in particular the one that allowed a prosecutor to produce evidence that could actually show somebody's innocence. Now, I know this sounds really weird, but we've got plenty of really crazy laws that don't work properly, and sometimes they do have to be cleaned up and fixed up. I don't know the bill inside out. I had a quick look at it. That makes sense to me that he would say that needed to be fixed. So I'm all good with that. I'm also good with Malcolm Roberts when he says that he's considered everything and he makes a decision because he believes it's the best decision that needs to be made for the people of Queensland, because he represents Queensland, and then the people of Australia. I do believe he's a man of his word, and I don't think that he is doing something that's untoward or is not the right thing. In relation to the access to metadata and getting access to people's phone information, well, the bill was already in place. So they reworded a couple of parts of it. So that already existed, and it already exists in all the states and territories. And I'm not saying that I agree with it, because I don't at all. In fact, I do not agree that they should just be able to access people's metadata. But there are provisions in place to make sure, like safeguards, to make sure that they don't just go having access to whatever they want. And I can tell you this for a fact, that here in Queensland, if you want to access that level of metadata, you have to have a Supreme Court warrant. And you have to go through a really lengthy process to get that data. That is true. So sometimes I think it's very difficult. I know that I jump to conclusions when I see things, and I think, yeah, those assholes, they're not looking after us. But when you've been on the other side of the door, and you've been an investigator, and you've worked in the police, and you see how hard it is to bring a brief of evidence together to already put somebody behind bars, often a civilian may not understand the processes that you needed to get that information. So look, I am not fully over the bill, but I have to say that I will defend Malcolm, and I do believe that everything he does with his hand on his heart, he does it for the good of people, the people of Australia.
Look, I agree, Katy. I mean, we've looked into his, beaming blue eyes, and he's so passionate about this country and trying to do whatever he can to help the people of this country. And he's probably, a lot of the times, he's the last line of defense, particularly in Senate estimates, not just in the Senate and in Parliament. But I just want to elaborate on a point. You kind of just skirted over it. I mean, let's highlight the fact that you were a police officer for a very long time. Can you think of any instances in your policing career where you could have put a criminal away if you'd only had access to certain data that you were restricted to? I mean, in some cases, surely there must be a valid argument for being able to access certain types of information. Is that right?
Oh, well, absolutely, because so if you have the evidence that you have on hand, you want to interview the defendant or interview the suspect, and there may be information on their phone that would negate certain elements that you're looking at in that offence. And if you can't get access to that and you only have that evidence in front of you, yes, you can prepare the brief, charge them, put them before the court, and they may go to jail. Now, I haven't had that happen to me, but I've definitely had it happen where I have taken a person to the side and convinced them, well, not convinced them, I gave them the facts and said, mate, I know that there's more to this particular situation. Now, this was a domestic violence incident. And I said, if you don't tell me the truth in an interview, you're going to be charged and you're going to go to jail. And his mum was with him and they were really understanding. I explained. And do you know what? I'll just tell you that a police officer is not meant to do that. I would have got hauled over the coals if it had been found out that I did it. And he said, okay, Katy, I trust you. He told me what I needed to hear. And I put the paperwork together and the charges that they wanted to have held against this guy were dismissed. And that's what can happen when you have all of the evidence. So you need the entire picture, not just part of it. So I actually believe that some of these laws are in place to help investigators and to help the people of Australia be protected. But I don't believe in government overreach at all. And I just think if people understood that this isn't just open slather for the government to access metadata on your phone and access your call log and your reverse calls, that's not the case at all. Yeah, the information is being held, it's being recorded. There's big giant data banks everywhere recording everything you do, every single thing. But if you think that people are just going and randomly looking at it, they're not. You're not allowed to go anywhere near those places where the data is held unless you've got a Supreme Court warrant in your hand.
Look, that's the thing. I mean, there's people out there that believe that everything's getting recorded and everything goes somewhere, but then at the same time they kick up a stink about this sort of legislation. Mark, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say something. Yeah, only mainly because it's not an actual dig at Malcolm himself, but I believe one of the things is that these conversations need to be talked about and airing it, like in this forum as well, is really, really good. Because if you follow the thread through in the discussion, it actually does. There is some valid concerns raised there. And look, one of the things that I was sort of looked at when I was researching into it myself a bit was that the change in the wording from accessing data instead of intercepting it was one of the concerns raised. So Schedule 3 allows limited access to stored communications for testing interception technologies without a full warrant, though it still requires Attorney General approval apparently from that. And the accessing data aims to make compliance easier for tech companies, but has raised concerns about expanding practical access to stored data from foreign providers, potentially increasing cross-border data flows without adequate safeguards. So it's really about having these conversations, and Malcolm obviously thinking that he's doing the right thing, obviously, but the conversation still needs to permeate in the public sphere, because there is obviously that option for creep, that this whole slippery slope scenario, so submissions during the legislative process, such as from the Internet Association of Australia, highlighted risks of function creep, where these tweaks could gradually broaden surveillance usage, introduce privacy encroachments for the general public, and impact individual freedoms without sufficient consultation or impact analysis. So there's some concerns around it, and this is my main point, is that with everything that Malcolm had available to him, and he's looked at that and obviously voted in that regard, but the conversation needs to be able to be had with the broader community to say, okay, well, that's all good and well, you've passed it, but these are the implications going forward. And when you consider the amount of restrictions that are going to be put on us in regards to free speech and what we're allowed to view and not allowed to view and so forth, the state, when this all seems harmless in Malcolm's eyes, but when the state gets that more power to suppress information, then these sort of conversations don't get to be had, right? So these sort of concerns don't get to be raised, and I think this is the main thing. This is sort of stuff needs to be continue to be agitated and create conversations like ours now, rather than just saying, oh, Malcolm did the right thing. No, but okay, that's okay, but let's look at what the implications could be going further, and let's look at ways that we can strengthen it going further again, you know what I mean? So, and more people with brighter minds than mine could come up and say, well, actually, no, we need to put better things in place, or no, that's gonna be okay going forward, so.
Richard, you're the libertarian in the room. Now, some people will argue that you're not a very good libertarian, but you're part of a party that really attacked Malcolm Roberts when they had the hate crimes bill that Malcolm supported, and the libertarians took advantage by having some shots at him about that. What's your view? Do you have a view on this? I mean, is this an issue for you, or is
this is a fight I'm really happy to stay out of personally, because I just don't. I just think other people that are more interested in it than me should address it. I've got other fights I want to prosecute, So
well, doesn't involve Anthony Albanese, who seems to be your number one target.
Oh no, I just think that it was much more illustrative of the media and the opposition and their incompetence rather than me. I mean, he can't help how bad he is. He's doing his best. It's just, he's like one of those terrible rugby players, that just drop the ball and fall off tackles and just, they're just hopeless. And all you can do is say, look, son, I know you're doing your best. You just can't help how bad you are.
All right, well, let's move on to the next thing, because I know we're getting to the end, and thank you guys for your time. I mean, I've really enjoyed this one, actually, having you all on. But I want to play this clip. Now, this is from a politician. I think she's in Victoria. I haven't come across her before, but someone sent this to me today. I think it was Tony who sent me this. Thea Hennesley. She's a member of the Upper House. She makes some interesting points here.
Here's something that will send a chill down your spine. Earlier this year, the Greens introduced a bill in the Upper House called the Use of Vacant Land Bill. And under it, if you own any vacant land, it can be taken by the state government or local council without being paid 1 cent and without your permission. And the problem with that bill was every single member of the Labor Party in the Upper House supported it. It got through the Upper House despite the fact that the Liberals opposed it, but it did get rejected in the Lower House. But I just want to point this out to you, that 9 members of the Labor Party of South Australia supported a bill that was a direct attack on your private property rights. And to me, that says it all. So here's...
Okay, so it was South Australia, not Victoria. I apologise for that. But I saw you nodding there, Mr. South Australian. Do you want to expand on this, Mark?
Yeah, no, that's been around for a little while, and it's just I just shake my head and laugh at it, because it was the same Liberal Party that actually supported Labor in putting in the amendments for the Emergency Management Bill powers. So it's very rich coming from them, talking about this private land bill. And look, I totally disagree with that. I think people own land; they should be able to do what they want. If you've purchased something or used your own money, you shouldn't be compelled by government or anybody else to do anything with it if you choose not to. I mean, it is sort of targeted towards investors. I think if you're looking at a development and putting units on, and the developers bought that to do that, and they're sitting on it for whatever reason. they were looking at saying, well, no, you should be compelled to either build on it in 6 or 12 months, or we can potentially say you've got to do something with it or sell it on. But even then, I don't think it's right. You purchase something, you should own it. You shouldn't be compelled to do anything. But at the end of the day, I think it's very rich from the Liberal Party jumping up and about that, but yet they're giving people's rights away even further with an emergency management bill that talks into the international health regulations and the World Health Organization. So look, they're no skin in the game at all in this, and they don't have a position to have on that, considering they've sold us out on those things. But that's just my view.
When are we going to start having a serious conversation in this country about protecting property rights? It just seems that they just keep eroding it and eroding and eroding it. As you said, if you buy a property, you should be able to do what you want with it. I mean, look, to a point. We've got the libertarian guy sitting in here saying, well, if you want to
look at his face.
next to a whole row of terrace houses, then that's okay. I don't completely agree with that. I think there should be limitations.
I don't agree with our policy at all. I've had many fights inside the party about it. They just want to do away with all zoning completely, which is a wonderfully ideological position to take. But the first thing that most people are going to go is like, oh, they're going to build horrible things, and that's just how most people would react. What I would say about this whole issue is that, again, there's such a poor order of priorities. If you look at the windfall tax introduction in Victoria, that is so much more onerous and oppressive and lethal to landowners in Victoria than anything that's ever been cooked up by anyone. It's incredible.
So that's the rezoning tax, right? Where if the Victorian government rezone your land, you might have a farm, they rezone your farmland, and they might say it's residential land now, and the value of that property increases. Say it increases by $500,000. Suddenly you have to pay 50% of that $500,000 in tax without having to sell the property. So you might want to hold that property, not sell it, but you still have to pay the tax, and suddenly you've got to come up with this incredible figure. It just feels like we're moving more and more towards socialism.
There's an alternative, Stephen. You cannot pay it, and then they will hold it as a debt and charge you 5% per year compounded for the next 30 years. So they may eventually be able to get your whole property for nothing.
Look, you've got a big parcel of land up in Queensland, Katy. I mean, what do you feel about property rights? Do you think they're being flushed down the toilet in a lot of ways?
Oh, you guys down south are copying it. Absolutely. It's not like that up here. I mean, we've got the Acquisition of Land Act, and the government can come and take a corridor or part of your land if they want, but you can fight it and you can take them to court. I mean, we'll be in trouble if they change the legislation up here. Absolutely. But at the moment, here in Queensland, I've got 881 acres. I just pay my basic. It's all rural zoned. I just pay my rates to the local council, and that's it. There's no other costs for me to have this property other than running it, of course. If they were to bring in anything like that up here, I would have to sell because I would not be able to afford to keep it.
But there is some good news. We have got some legislation through that if you have a 5-acre property, you can put a second dwelling on it, or larger. You can put a second dwelling on it. And so the boys are very, very happy about what they got through the New South Wales Parliament. And they even got the Greens to support it too.
That's actually a good decision.
Good law.
Yeah,
good law.
We don't have that up here. We can't put a second
You will,
property, second residential.
You will. It's coming.
Yeah, it's why they took it away up here is it eroded their ability to get rates out of the one farm. So, for example, you've got 2 generations living on the farm in the one house. The young fella and his new wife want to build another house on the same property. They're just simply not allowed. And it's actually it's eroded quite a bit of the communities up here, especially in the dairy farming areas, because the kids couldn't stay on the same farms.
Yeah.
So if they brought that in up here, that would be fantastic. But we don't have that.
It's coming.
That one.
It's coming. So there is some good news. some good news.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, I'm going to pick a bone with you now. Speaking of these libertarians, there was a poll. I don't have the poll with me, but there was a poll that came out by Channel 6 News recently in New South Wales that was talking about the projections for the upper house, and it had One Nation, I don't know, 12 or 15%, something ridiculous. It had the Libertarians at 2%, just like Mr. Sambuno always says, stuck on 2% and going nowhere. But interestingly, it had Family First at 5%, which would get Lyle Shelton elected. Now, I've been to countless events where, including ones that I've organised, where your leader, John Ruddick, has got up on his high horse and said, look, I do think that the minor parties should merge, and let's just get to the next election. And if someone gets out in front, then we'll all get behind them and back them. When is the Libertarians going to start folding into One Nation? If we're going to follow if we're going to follow exactly what John Ruddick, if we're going to follow what John Ruddick had to say, I mean, it's about time that I mean, let's think about it. In some states around the country, in a lot of states, actually, most of the states around the country at the federal election, you guys polled at 0.5% in the upper house. Almost, and I say you guys polled like you don't exist. Well, when are the Libertarians going to fold up shop and join One Nation?
We're not ready to just yet. Oh. Okay, we've got lots of work to do, but we're going to keep going. We might even get a new name and a better name, because the reason Family First does very well is it's got a great name. And a lot of people go into a polling booth and just go, "Oh, that sounds nice. I'll vote for them."
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, look, guys, I know Mark's got to shoot off, so we might wrap it up. Let's do this again, because I really enjoyed this, having you all on. It'd be better to do it in person, because it always works a bit better. Sometimes when you're talking over each other with the stream, it's a bit hard to understand. But it's been well worth it. Obviously, we can't do it in person because you're all scattered around the country. But hopefully, at an event for Australians for Better Government in the future, we can do that, because as everyone should know, not only am I president, but Katy's also on the committee. Mark's on the committee. Mark's our South Australian coordinator and did a very good job down in Adelaide with our last event. And Richard normally comes along to our events in Sydney. So hopefully we can organise that at some point in the future. But for now, look, I just want to tip my hat to all of you guys. I've really enjoyed this. I really appreciate you guys and everything that you do. Even you, Richard, to a point. And Richard, mate, we'll start with you, because I know you don't have a huge social media or anything like that. But is there anything coming up in your life that you think anyone should know about? Any libertarian event or anything like that you want to let everyone?
Just branch meetings. We've got lots of branch meetings now.
Lots of branch meetings, but no one going. Sorry?
Not as many as One Nation, though.
Oh, well, I'm sure.
Been opening lots of branches.
Libertarians have got a lot of branches, but no one going to them.
Oh, that's not very kind.
Right, Mark, we know you've got
to shoot off, guys.
Mark. Yeah, let us know about your Substack.
No worries, we'll do. No worries, guys.
Right.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Mark.
the Substack. Oh, yeah, just a lot of topics covered there. So yeah, people want to jump on there. A lot of things written about. So Mark's Substack on Substack. Check us out there and follow along on Facebook and X's and that as well. And South Australian focus, as well as faith, culture, and politics in Australia. Good on you, guys. Thanks, legends.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Great on with you. It's been a laugh. Good on you guys. See ya.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Mark. And just to wrap up, Katy, let's plug Let's Rethink Renewables and everything that's going on there. Everyone can head to let'srethinkrenewables.org, the website, download the prospectus and also all the information on there. Sign up to be a member. With more members that Let's Rethink Renewables has, I mean, the more we'll be able to lobby the politicians and say, hey, get your act together. But there's also a lot of action on social media as well. Katy, let everyone know about Let's Rethink Renewables.
Yeah, if people can just jump on the Facebook page and join us there and start to share all of the information that we're getting out. I mentioned a few of the pillars earlier on, but pretty much Let's Rethink Renewables. The goal of it is to bring to the attention of all Australians and the rest of the world that this amazing nation that we live in, it consists of what we've recognised as the 5 pillars, and that is our wildlife habitats, our productive farmlands, our rural landscapes, our strong communities. That's my favourite right there, strong communities, because without community, we're really buggered.
An estimated 40 million tonnes.
Without those 5 pillars, Australia doesn't exist. That's what makes up the fabric of this nation. Once those things are gone, they are gone for good. And we need to protect them at all costs. The renewables, the rollout of industrial-sized renewables will destroy those pillars of Australia. Mark my word, I'm seeing it for myself already here. This is the reason why I'm talking about it. Look, I would much rather be sitting with my kids out in the lounge room right now, enjoying some time with them on a Sunday night. But this message must be delivered to everybody in Australia, and especially people in the city who don't get to come out to these country places and see what's happening. Please remember, these are the areas where the food, fibre and minerals come from that keeps us all alive. This current government is doing nothing but making it really hard for us to continue to produce those 3 things.
So you're saying that you'd rather spend time with your kids than spend time on a podcast with Richard on Sunday night?
I was about to make a comment about that, about maturity levels. Sorry, Richard, my role as a mother will always come first.
You know he's going to call you after this and talk to you for half an hour. So. Anyway, let's wrap things up.
Thank you, Richard. You know I love you.
Thank you to the audience for sticking with us tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a lot of good interactions with the chat, and also a lot of people following us. Thank you to Mark Neugebauer for letting us share this to his network as well. That's much appreciated for Mark. We know he's got a family, so he's got to get away to, which we all have. But for everyone watching, please head to commandingthenarrative.com. and hit the sign up button in the top right hand corner. You'll get the newsletter and you get to stay up to date with everything that we're doing. If you would like to contribute in some way, please hit the donate button. It does really help. And also, if you're interested in Let's Rethink Renewables or Australians for Better Government, you can check out those websites as well and sign up to be members. The more members that those groups have, the more impact that they will have, especially when committee members of those groups are dealing with politicians, and the politicians say, how many members do you have? Well, if we've got a big movement behind us, we can really start putting pressure on those politicians to really drive reform and change in this country, because there's a lot of issues that are going on right now that seemingly are out of our control that we can't push back on. Well, we do have that opportunity to do that as long as we can get behind some of these very well-organized groups that will advocate on our behalf. So for now, it's goodbye, but thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.